Hey Awana friends, it's Miss Christy. I'm here with your lesson for the week. This week's lesson theme is Red Night. And so our lesson is actually going to be about the Red Sea and God parting that. So I hope you wore your red. I wore my red tonight, yay. And so we're wearing red in support of our Sparks class. Sparks are the little guys. They are kindergarten through second grade. So, hey, shout out to the Sparks class. We are wearing red for you tonight. So, in your goodie bags tonight, you will have a red snack, and you will also get it's a piece of paper that has a puzzle on it. It's one of those hidden picture puzzles. And so you have to give you a list of things at the bottom to find, and you have to find those throughout the picture. And so it's a hidden picture puzzle. And it has the picture of the Red Sea on it. So I thought that would be fun for y'all. Be something a little different. And I hope you enjoyed your jump ropes from last week. Those were fun. I got some videos from that and they were pretty exciting. So anyway, we have tonight our lesson on, like I said, God parting the Red Sea. And I was thinking about it. I don't know if everybody knows this or not, but everybody probably remembers the story of Moses putting out his staff with the Israelites, and they were escaping from Egypt and the Pharaoh after the 10 plagues happened. And when they got to the Red Sea, they were like, this is impossible. How are we going to get across? And Moses took his staff out and asked God to part the Red Sea, and that's what he did. And so the Red Sea parted. They walked through on dry land. We all know this story. Most of us know this story. If not, you can watch the 10 Commandments on TV sometime. That's an old movie that's pretty fun. A little long, but pretty fun, and it's kind of neat. It's got old school graphics and no CGI stuff, so be prepared for that. But anyway, it's a fun movie. So we all know that story. But there's actually 5 places in the Bible where God parted the waters for people or for a certain reason, okay? And so we know that God is in control of all the water and everything in the world because he created it. And the creator can do whatever he wants with the things he creates. And so he parted the waters in 5 places. So we're going to look at that. The 5 places, a lot of them they're all in the Old Testament. We also have Jesus doing things with the water, walking on water, calming the storms. So there's a show of Jesus in the New Testament with holding the power of the water in his hands as well. Even the wind and the waves obeyed him. And so during one of the storms on the Sea of Galilee. But tonight we're going to look at the Old Testament passages where God parted the waters. So the first place he parted the waters was in Genesis 1, and pardon me while I look this up in my Bible. Genesis 1, 6 through 7. You can go back and read these later if you want to. You don't have to read them along with me. So in Genesis 1 it says, in verse 6, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters. So here he's dividing the waters. Why is he dividing the waters? Verse 7 tells us, and God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. So all this firmament that they're talking about, he separated the waters to make the heavens. And so he separated the water from the air, from the heaven. And so that was the first place that we see that he separated the waters. Now another place he parted the waters is that familiar story about the Red Sea. And I'm going to turn over to Exodus 14. Exodus 14, that's big number 14. And we're going to start in verse 21, and I'm going to go all the way through 31, the end of the chapter. Okay? So starting in verse 21 of Exodus 14. And Moses stretched out his hand over the sea, and the Lord caused the sea to go back by a strong east wind all that night, and made the sea dry land. And the waters were divided. And the children of Israel went into the midst of the sea upon the dry ground, and the waters were a wall unto them on their right hand and on their left. And the Egyptians pursued. Remember, Pharaoh and his Egyptian army were following the Israelites and Moses. And the Egyptians pursued and went in after them to the midst of the sea, even all of Pharaoh's horses, his chariots, and his horsemen. And it came to pass in the morning watch, the Lord looked unto the host of the Egyptians through the pillar of fire and of the cloud, and troubled the host of the Egyptians, and took off their chariot wheels, that they drave them heavily, so that the Egyptians said, Let us flee from the face of Israel, for the Lord fighteth for them against the Egyptians. And the Lord said unto Moses, Stretch out thine hand over the sea, that the waters may come again upon the Egyptians, upon their chariots and upon their horsemen. And Moses stretched forth his hand over the sea, and the sea returned to his strength when the morning appeared. And the Egyptians fled against it. And the Lord overthrew the Egyptians in the midst of the sea. So not only did Moses part the waters, or God gave Moses the ability to call upon the parting of the waters, but he also told him, put your staff back out and put the waters back together. And so that's what he did. And the waters returned and covered the chariots and the horsemen and all the host of Pharaoh that came into the sea after them. There remained not so much as one of them. So all the Egyptians passed away, they died. But the children of Israel walked upon dry land in the midst of the sea. So only the part where the Egyptians were did the waters go back. The Israelites, there's so many of them, they're still crossing crossing the sea on dry ground. So they're still there when all this is going on. And the waters were a wall unto them on the right hand and on their left. That'd be pretty cool to see those walls of water right next to you as you're walking through the middle of the sea. Thus the Lord saved Israel that day out of the hand of the Egyptians, and saw the Egyptians dead upon the seashore. And Israel saw that great work which the Lord did upon the Egyptians. And the people feared the Lord and believed the Lord and his servant Moses. So they knew that to trust Moses because he was working with God, and God had a hand in everything that Moses did. Okay. That was the story you most likely remember. There's another part after Moses dies. Joshua takes over for the Israelites as their leader, and he's leading them still into the promised land. He's gotten them out of the wilderness. Excuse me. He's now out of the wilderness with the Israelites, and now they come upon the Jordan River. But it's really high, and they're not going to be able to cross. And so what does God do? He parts the waters for them again. This time it's the Jordan River. So let's read about that in Joshua 3. Just going over a little bit out of Exodus there. Joshua chapter 3. Hold on. I keep flipping past it. All right, Joshua 3, and starting in verse 14. There we go. Starting in verse 14 and reading through 17. And it came to pass that when the people removed from their tents to pass over Jordan, and the priest bearing the Ark of the Covenant before the people. Remember, the Ark of the Covenant held the tablets of the Ten Commandments, and the staff of Aaron, and something else. I can't remember what it was, but it carried a few of God's items in there that he wanted the people to keep. And remember, you weren't supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. There were poles that they were carrying. Men were on each end, and they were carrying the Ark of the Covenant in front of the people. And as they that bear the ark were come into the Jordan, and the feet of the priests that bear the ark were dipped into the brim of the water, for the Jordan was overfloweth all the banks all the time of harvest. So the waters are really, really high in the Jordan at this point. That the waters which came down from above stood and rose up upon a heap very far from the city Adam, that is beside Zaratan, that those that came down toward the sea off the plain, even the salt sea, failed and were cut off, and the people passed right over into Jericho. And the priests that bear the ark of the covenant of the Lord stood firm on dry ground in the midst of the Jordan, and all the Israelites passed over on dry ground until all the people were passed clean over the Jordan. So, once again, they have a lot of water to cover, and as soon as the Ark of the Covenant, the people carrying the Ark of the Covenant, when their feet touched the water, that's when the waters parted. Excuse me. And when the waters parted, all the people were able to walk across on dry land again through the Jordan River to the other side to Jericho. So here is our fourth spot. Number 4, God parted the Jordan River for Elijah. And so I'm going to head over to 2 Kings chapter 2 for this reading. 2 Kings chapter 2, verse 8 and 9. Okay, Elijah is getting ready. He didn't die. Elijah's getting ready to be taken up by a whirlwind to heaven. Okay, he didn't die. God sent a chariot for him that swooped him up and took him to heaven. And so if we read there in Elijah chapter 2, Elisha was the guy who was his kind of like his pupil, his student, and he was learning the ways of God through Elijah and trying to be as good of a leader as Elijah and as close to God as Elijah. And so Elisha and Elijah are together. So in verse 8 it says, Elijah took his mantle and wrapped it together and smote the water. So he hit the water with a stick, and they were divided hither and thither, so that they too went over on dry ground. And it came to pass that they were gone over, that Elijah said unto Elisha, Ask what I shall do for thee before I be taken away from thee. And Elisha said, I pray thee, let a double portion of thy spirit be upon me. So what's happening here is they were at the river. It was very high. Elijah took his staff and he hit the waters. Smote means to hit. He hit the water. They separated. Elisha and Elijah are traveling through the river, and God parted those waters for them. Now, a little bit further down, Elijah, I'm going to keep reading through 11 through 14, and this tells you about the 5th time when the Jordan River separated, when the waters were separated by God. This was the Jordan River separating for Elisha. Okay, so in chapter 2 of 2 Kings in verse 11, it came to pass that they still went on, and they talked, that behold, there appeared a chariot of fire. Here's where Elijah's going to go away. And the horses of fire, and parted them asunder, and Elijah went up by a whirlwind into heaven. Okay, and Elisha saw this, and he cried, my father, the chariot of Israel, and the horsemen thereof. And he saw them no more. And he took hold of his own clothes, and he rent them into 2 pieces. When people were feeling really sad or upset about something, like really upset, they would take their clothes and they would tear them up. And that's what rent their clothes means. And so that's what Elisha did, because he was so sad that Elijah had gone now. And then in verse 13, he meaning Elisha, took up the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and went back and stood by the bank of the Jordan. And he took the mantle of Elijah that fell from him, and he smote the waters, and said, Where is the Lord of Elijah? And when he has also smitten the waters, they parted hither and thither, and Elisha went over. And so once again, that is your 5th time when God parted the waters. And this time it was for Elisha over the Jordan River. Okay? So those are the different places in the Bible where God parted the waters. And remember, God has control of everything, so he can do that. But I thought it was interesting. They were all in the Old Testament, and there were 5 different times he parted the waters, not just the one that we all remember from Sunday school classes. Okay? All right, so let's do our trivia. Our trivia from last week was, it was fitness night, and it made me think about fitness. I think about running, and then running, I think about marathons, and a marathon is 26.2 miles. So your question last week was, what is the 26th book of the Bible? It is in the Old Testament. It was the book of Ezekiel, if you counted correctly. Okay, so good job on those who answered my question correctly. Several of you did. And then our trivia question for this week, it's about Moses. And let's see. Okay, there was actually, when Moses was leaving Egypt, okay, with all the Israelites, there was a shorter way for the Israelites to get to the promised land. But God didn't want them to go the short route. And there was a reason for that. God made them go the long way through the desert. And you're thinking, oh my goodness, why did he do that? Well, God has his reasons, and we know the Israelite people, they continued to go away from God, so and then they were punished and had to stay in the wilderness for 40 years. But there was a reason for everything God does. And here is your question, okay? In Exodus chapter 13, it actually says a verse where God took the Israelites the long way around because he was worried that they would return to Egypt if they faced something. So what did the Israelites face that God was worried about? That if they ran into this particular thing, then the people of Israel were going to go back to Egypt, and that is not where he wanted them to be. So take a look at that in Exodus 13 and tell me, why didn't God want them to go the short route? Why did they have to go the long way? Okay? Also, I found this really interesting. This is just an extra little thing. I should have probably kept this for another trivia question, but I didn't. But it'll make a good trivia for your family if you want to ask them. Joseph, you remember Joseph from Egypt, right? He's the reason why the Israelites were in Egypt. And Joseph was the one who was sold off into slavery by his brothers and all that kind of stuff. Okay, Joseph, his bones, they collected his bones, and when Moses and the Israelites left Egypt, they carried the bones of Joseph with them so that they could put him to rest in the promised land, so when they got back to it. So I thought that was really interesting that they took Joseph's bones back to Israel with them, back with the Israelites to their promised land. So anyway, that's a little trivia question you can ask your family later, okay? And the answer is in Exodus 13. So if you want to make your parents read Exodus 13 to find the answer, that'd be great. All right. Well, next week is card night. I have some cards for y'all as a treat. And then I also have, I've got some little, a good snack next week too. All right, I'll tell you about that next time. We're getting close to Thanksgiving. Make sure you stay thankful for all the things and that you have and your health and everything else going on. And so I love y'all, and I'm always praying for you. If you need anything, please contact me. Okay? All right, I'll see you tonight or this week for Red Night. Y'all have a good day. Talk to you later. Bye.